All right, the Bucks. It is Talking Buccaneers with me, Fumane before Orlando Pirates take on Stellenbosch FC in the Betway Premiership. The Betway Premiership, which Orlando Pirates have yet to register points on. A lot to chew on as per usual, so let's dive right into it. What I do want to kind of talk about in this video, what I'll specifically be looking at is obviously a microscope on Abdesam Wadu. As per usual, I know some people will start to be getting bored with that. Secondly, I will be looking at kind of Stellenbosch FC, what to expect from them. And then I'll kind of get into players to watch. This is like a new thing that I want to try out in these videos. I want to try out with every opponent that we come against to give maybe one, two, three sort of players to watch. And then lastly, I'll do obviously my lineup predictions. Now, I want to start by saying that Stellenbosch FC is one of my favorite teams to watch. I think they do the business down at the Denny Craven. I think that's what their stadium is called down there in the Western Cape. Have kind of had this reputation of a groom and sell club where they develop the best talent. They find it, first of all, they develop it second, and then they sell it. And then they still they still are able to remain competitive in the Betway Premiership. And I think it's a fantastic environment that they've got down there to be able to, keep to sustainability in that way, especially still be able to qualify for finals and that sort of thing. So I want to get that out there. But to kind of get into the video, here's where I want to start. The last time Orlando Pirates had an MTN 8 semi-final upcoming on the weekend and had a game to play in the midweek was last week against Marumo Gallants, and Sundowns was coming on the weekend. Now, Abdesam Wadu said something after that game, after the defeat against Marumo Gallants. He said that he decided to rest a couple of players because of the game upcoming in the weekend. And I think that already sets up an interesting scenario going into this particular game against Stellenbosch FC, with the view that Mamelodi Sundowns is upcoming again this weekend. Now, I think there's a lot of things that Abdesam Wadu has gotten himself under the microscope for. For example, the press conferences that he gave, or maybe not press conferences, but the interview that he gave as soon as he got, hired at Orlando Pirates. He already came out swinging, speaking about the fact that, an Orlando Pirates coach, I'm paraphrasing, but he said something along the lines that you can't take that job unless you understand the pressure with which it comes, and knowing that you are so advanced in this project that this project has now reached maturity and it has to succeed now. This club has to win. He's been backed with 11 or so players, some of which he himself spoke about that he loves, and they're part of his team now. But he also finds, a core of a team that was very successful, and that core hasn't been sold. Most of those players are still playing for the club. So he's found a combination of a core that was relatively successful, as well as a few additions that, yes, might be causing him headaches in the regard of, squad management and that sort of thing. We've heard he's complained about that, having to manage or coach so many players and having to figure out who he's going to prioritize. And maybe he likes the man management approach to get the best out of his players. And so maybe he's the kind of coach that likes to keep the whole squad happy and that sort of thing. I mean, I've heard him speak about the fact that everyone will get his chance. And so already, you are talking about a man who's quite sentimental towards his players. And to be fair, he does come across as that. Even in his initial interview at Orlando Pirates, which was very interesting, he already seemed like he's someone who's thinking a lot about the player, and he cares a lot about the ins and outs and the surroundings of football over and above the 90 minutes on the weekend or in the midweek. So that's a little bit that I'm thinking about Adwa Samwadu. But there's more. I'm kind of thinking that, he set up kind of this scenario where he's going to be questioned. It's the nature of the job. It's the nature of the job that he signed up for, the nature of the job that he knew by his own admission what he's coming into, right? Already there was a microscope, but I think he has obviously further intensified that by failing to win. Not just him, the rest of the club, the players, but him as the one who is the spearhead of this club. He's kind of shouldering that blame more than anyone as the face of the club. At Orlando Pirates, when you are the head coach, you are the face of the club. This is not the sort of club where, the players are kind of, the players, yes, they are the face of the club, don't get me wrong, but I think we've got a culture at Orlando Pirates where the head coach is perhaps pedestalized. Like we really, when the club is winning, we think of, the who's the head coach at the time. And maybe that's common to other football clubs, but I know in ours, that's how things work. And so when things go south, the first person to be looked at is, hey, the man at the helm, like, what is he doing? Hardly is it ever the recruitment, hardly is it ever underperforming players, though there is a bit of that, but at most it's going to be the head coach. And so that's his job, Adwa Samwadu. He will know it. He's known it very fast. 2 games into the Betway Premiership, he already knew what he's dealing with. He's already spoken about how unfair it is. And is it fair? I think so. I think he spoke of the pressure that he's coming into. So this is it. He's living it now. It's not theoretical. Anyway, but I think already there is a bit of a microscope because, he, like, going into this one, now we're going to be looking at something that I've spoken about, which is the spine of the head coach. Now, I don't mean the spine in the sense of the spine of the team, like the goalkeeper, centre-back, centre midfield, and striker. That often is referred to as the spine of the team. But I'm referring to the metaphorical spine of the man himself. The man himself, does he have a spine, which is, does he have a backbone? And that means, does he have guts? Is he daring? Is he maybe a bit arrogant as well, And I'm asking that question because having done the whole thing where he's talked about, hey, we needed to rotate because of the Sundowns final, and something that I'm questioning a lot and I'm looking at under the microscope with Adwa Samwadu is, does he stick with his convictions, or is he the kind of man that changes his mind? But what changes his mind? Is it the fans? Something as shallow as some fans are just dissatisfied and already he's tearing apart his 90 pages game model. Of course, I'm being hyperbolic by saying that, but what I mean is he kind of like making alterations because all of a sudden fans are not happy? But, to hold him accountable to the statement that he made with regards to resting players for a Sundowns game that was upcoming, he has to stick with that. I think that's the first thing. It's like, hey, last time you did this thing where you rested Mufukeng, you rested all these guys, you were saying you're looking at the Sundowns game, which, to be fair, you drew. You didn't win, so it's not great, but you drew, and that's good enough, I guess. But now it's going to be like, is he going to play now all his best players because it's Stellenbosch? And what does that say about what he thought about Marumo Gallants? What does that say about whether he's got a spine? Maybe he saw the reaction of people like myself who are like, why did you rest players at the start of the season who are probably not fatigued as yet? So I think already there's that. There's the microscope on him. Who is he going to play? We've seen now Dino van Rooyen has made his way back. Talent Mbata has made his way back as well onto, the starting 11. And they both played a part in the game against Mamelodi Sundowns, maybe lacking a bit in the way of match fitness. Is he going to rest people like Patrick Maswanganyi? And if he does, who does he play as a number 10? Does he go for rather a 6 and 2 8s, which would be a 4-3-3 with one pivot rather than two, instead of two? Is he going to go with that sort of thing? So obviously there is this microscope. It's almost as though more than anything, we're looking at Adwa Samwadu's decisions more than the team itself. Like I think we got to a point, especially with Jose Rivera, where we're scrutinizing the players, and the doubt was was gone with regards to the head coach. So, I mean, every now and again, obviously people would question his decisions, but it was like you were questioning from a point of you're not calling for him to be fired. You know he's a very good head coach and he knows what he's doing, and what he does is something that he believes in and he's going to back. And so the questioning would come from that point. But I guess with Abdul Samwadu, the difference is the questioning of the team is more of like, we don't believe in what the coach is doing. You know, for most supporters, in all fairness, with my mere observation, I feel like a lot of fans are feeling that way. And so, yeah, that's going to be, I think, the interesting part in terms of Orlando Pirates. That's pretty much what I want to talk about. Like, that's pretty much where I want to cap it. I want to keep it at that. It's still like a bit of like we don't know what to expect. I don't know what to expect, honestly. I feel like that is giving me like things to look at when I'm watching a game. So more than watching how he's playing, which I obviously try to do over the preseason and that sort of thing, but that has shifted now. It's almost like I'm not looking at how is he playing, but I'm looking at what decisions is he making. So I think that's the first thing tomorrow. I think the answer to Orlando Pirates winning tomorrow is going to be on key decision making, and I'm sad to say this, but I feel like it's almost like it's a lose-lose situation with Wadu. So even if he makes a brilliant decision and the players make a mistake and Orlando Pirates loses, it's going to all come back to him. That's the position that he's in now because he's lost 2 games at the start of the season. And other than that, obviously, we're going to be looking at something like set pieces as well. How are Pirates addressing that issue? How are Pirates addressing the issue of balls floated into the box? He said some things about height. Is he keeping to that? How does he address that? He spoke about playing Mashilwani because of height. Stellenbosch FC, we know tomorrow we're going to expect long throws from Muloisane into the box. We know we're going to expect someone like De Jong, and then Stanich, one of their centre backs, Muloisane as well. If he's in the box and someone else is taking the throw or it's a corner, those guys are a threat, in the box. And so how does Orlando Pirates address that issue? We're going to be looking at that. I think those are kind of the few things that we're going to be looking at apart from like team selection. And then to kind of come to you, Stellenbosch FC, I think what you expect from them is, if I had one word to describe Stellenbosch FC, I would describe them as drilled. I think that's the word that I would go for. I think Steve Barker has done a fantastic job over the years, to keep, if Stellenbosch FC played in, for some reason, a green kit, you would still know that it's Stellenbosch FC. So you don't really need to see the kit to know that they are playing, because they've got a clear identity. When they're playing football, you can see that it's them. That's how they look like. And in simple terms, this is my view of how Stellenbosch FC play. They're very good on the transition. They've got a very good focal point in De Jong up front, who is the glue that holds whoever's playing on the wing. So whether it is Ashley Cupido, who got injured in their last game, Devon Titus, who is looking more and more like he's someone who's growing in that team. They did replace him with Lisibanku. There's Langelihle Pili, who's an exciting prospect as well. Whoever's going to be playing in the wide areas for Stellenbosch FC, Andrew De Jong is going to be the glue that holds them together. So he is the focal point that they go to. He keeps things up very well. He drops into pockets of space that move defenses around, and then he's very good at finding, his wide man who then pose a threat with their speed and maybe dribbling as well. And then, so that's kind of how I would sum up Stellenbosch FC. And I think coming against Orlando Pirates, what you would expect from them is they're going to try to rely on offensive transitions. So by that, I realize sometimes I actually make the mistake. I want to say defensive transition and say offensive and the other way around. But what I mean is they're going to be looking to hit us with speed on the break. As soon as they win the ball back, Lisibanku is quite rapid on that flank. Ashley Cupido is quite rapid on that flank. So is Langelihle Pili. He's very much of a tricky customer as well on that flank. And then you've got someone like Jabba, who's also good at joining in with, the front players, the front three, and supporting them as well. So as soon as they win the ball back, they're going to hit us with those sort of 3 to 4 players. And then obviously, you've got Daga at left back, who's also very good going up and down. And then at right back, I keep forgetting his surname. They've got a very good Nigerian right back now. I think it's Enenima. I might be saying it wrong. But he seems like quite the player. It was interesting to see him score in the last game in a set piece. So he looks a bit like a box threat as well. So he's going to add in that regard for them. You've got those guys who will be looking to join in as they attack. The right back, the left back, and then the front players, and then Jabba also joining from midfield. And again, like I said, I think they will be looking to utilize set pieces as well. So that's going to cause a massive question for Orlando Pirates. I saw in their last game, even as soon as the game starts, they got a throw in, and then Thabo Mloisane is already there trying to go long into the box. So Pirates have to be prepping for that sort of thing with them as well. But I think players to watch for me, specifically the left side of Stellenbosch FC, specifically that I think is the most exciting side, where you've got De Jong, who drifts around, sort of finding these spaces where he combines with players, he holds the ball up for them and then quick combination play with them. So he's the striker, but he often vacates, quite like Mahopa, but think of a Mahopa who's very good at what Mahopa does. Very good at what Mahopa does. So what Pirates kind of use Mahopa to do, De Jong does that, but he's very good at it. I might even say he's excellent at it. His touch is quite good. His positioning, the way, the spaces that he drifts into and finds spaces there, and the spaces that he vacates for his teammates, he's very good at it. He's quite complete, I think, under De Jong. Or maybe even if he's not complete, he's so good at hiding his weaknesses, and he's so good at doing what he knows what to do. And you focus on that when he's playing. And so anyway, players to watch, I think it's obvious, I've already mentioned. I think De Jong is going to be one. And then I think Devin Titus. I think Devin Titus is someone who has always been under the shadow of Basadine, Dino van Rooyen, Jaden Adams, Ikram Reyners, all those kind of players that have now left Stellenbosch FC. Devin Titus is the one that has remained, I think, mainly, or maybe you might even say Mloisane as well, and say Stevens, the goalkeeper. But he's that last player who's kind of there still. De Jong as well, and people like Janino Palace. But I think of all of those, Devin Titus for me is the one that seems like now is somewhat of like a leader there as well. But I think even in his performances, he's looking very dangerous. We've always known of his pace, but I think he's growing in his influence as well. I've seen some good touches of him lately. And, you always think of him coming down that right side, Devin Titus, but it was interesting to see him on the left. I think he did a fantastic job playing on the left in the last game. When Ashley Cupido went off injured, he went to the left. Lisiwangu was playing on the right. And I think he's the player to watch because his combination with Mdaga on the left and then Jabba kind of making the runs from midfield to stretch people and open up spaces for Devin Titus to sort of cut back onto the pitch, and as well as De Jong. So there's like this combination of 4 or so players, and then Tato Kiba as well would every now and again make a third man run from midfield as well, and so I think the left side of Stellenbosch, and so I'd say Mdaga, I'd say Devin Titus. If Nku is playing and Cupido is not back because he got injured, I'd say De Jong, Mdaga, Devin Titus on the left, and then obviously I would throw in Jabba as well, maybe as a fourth, as a bonus. I think those are the players to watch. Jabba with his supporting of the forward line as well as covering the midfield as well. So someone who's putting like a lot of shift in that midfield, but offensively, with the way that he arrives in the box, he's quite dangerous. I think Mdaga is quite a nifty left back, you know, very tiny, the way he looks, very tiny, but very good on the ball. He's good going up and down. Actually, you know what? I feel like the whole Stellenbosch team are players to watch, but I'll keep it at Mdaga. The Nigerian right back, with whom I'm butchering his name, I know. De Jong, obviously. I will say Devin Titus, and then I'll say Jabba. Let me say those 5. And I know this is unfair on all the other guys because the whole team is amazing. And then in the way of like how I think Orlando Pirates will line up, I know I'm going to get it wrong. I can already say that. But I think at left back, obviously, we're going to see Dion Hoto. He's obviously fit as a fiddle. He doesn't miss a game. Dion Hoto, and then Sipo Shane. And then at centre back, I think we are seeing again, I've heard something about CBC still missing him and Makehlin Makaula. And then obviously Sesani is still out, as well as Silailo Rasibucha. So those 4 guys are out. But I've also heard rumors about we'll only see Olisanda after the international break. So I think we're going to see still Siema and Megazeli Mbogazi at centre back. And then at right back, I do think that we will see Dino van Rooyen. We should see Dino van Rooyen because he played, right? And because that right back position is still not certain. And Mashilwani, it would do the head coach some good to protect him. And then central midfield pairing, I think, is an interesting one because obviously we saw Talent Mbata come back, and I think that's like him capitulating to the noise. So we saw Talent Mbata come back, and that's not to say I don't want Talent Mbata back. I just think he's capitulating to the noise. But we saw Mbata come back, and I wonder if he's going to keep Mbule and Nduli in midfield. Because like that's typically what he's gone for from the start of the season. And maybe because it was Sundowns, he went for Mbata and Nduli because he wanted to kind of try to win the ball back high. And you know that Mbata is going to give you that energy in midfield. So interesting, but I'm going to say he's going to go for Mbule and Nduli. I think he's not going to rest Nduli unless he rests Nduli and he plays Mbata and Mbule, which will be interesting. But obviously there's a shout still for Mariko. It seems like Mariko is someone that he likes, which honestly I don't want Mariko to start tomorrow. But anyway, we might see him. But I'm going to say this. I think he's going to go with Mbule and Nduli. And then ahead of them, Patrick Maswanganye, again, very bookable. So he's been substituted out a lot in the last few games, but I think he's still going to go with Tito. And then I think he's going to go with Mufukeng. On the right, I think he's going to go with Oswanapolis. And then I think he's going to go with Evidence Mahopa because he has now dropped. Buitumelo Radiopane and Mahopa gave a good account for himself against Mamelodi Sundowns. If he doesn't go with that one, I think the questions are still going to mount. But let me leave it here. Up the mighty Bucks. Cheers. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video from Talking Buccaneers. If you did, please hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all our future content.